Good morning. I'm Sean Welsh, Vice President for University Marketing and Communications, and I will serve as moderator for this morning's town hall. We'll start things off here by introducing our panelists, who you see on your Zoom screen right now. We have President Kim Schatzel. We have Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic and Student Affairs, Melanie Perreault. Vice President for Administration and Finance and CFO, Ben Lowenthal. Vice President for Operations and Chief Human Resources Officer, Steve Jones. Vice President for Student Affairs, Vernon Hurte. And last but certainly not least, our ASL interpreter for today's town hall, Barb Menges. Before I hand things off to President Schatzel for some opening remarks, I want to remind everybody that a recording of the town hall will be made available on the university website this week. For those who have not entered questions in a town hall before, please use the Q&A function on your Zoom screen to submit questions for me to read to our panelists this morning. For any questions we do not get to today, or for any questions you need us to answer after the event closes, feel free to email us at asktu@towson.edu. Again, we will get things started here momentarily, but first I'll open things up with President Schatzel for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Sean. I want to start out by saying Happy New Year to everybody. We thought it was important for us to be able to gather together midway through the mini-mester to be able to provide an update with regard to the university's plans for spring, as well as some very important issues that we're managing, such as the dropping of the governor's budget. I want to begin by saying the fact that it's sunny out today. It looks as if spring might be in the air after the cold that we've had. And I'm really looking forward to having everybody back on campus. We've worked very, very hard with our sister universities in the USM, as well as with the University of Maryland, Baltimore Medical School, as well as UMS, to be able to prepare the campus as we have for the last going on 2 years now, to be able to provide for the safest environment for research, education, living, and learning. We are absolutely committed to the fact that we are going to have a face-to-face educational environment, and we are going to have a full residential experience. The campus is in a position, because of the vaccination rate, to be very well positioned for that. Omicron came very, very quickly in the tail end of the fall semester, and it seems from the data that we're receiving, and the latest data shows the fact that it's dropping very quickly in Maryland as well. We've got 2 weeks to go, and those are good signs for us. But I also want to share the fact that we are moving into a phase that many of you have heard experts talking about. And in fact, we've been briefed on it. That would be the presidents as well as the USM leadership. An endemic phase of the pandemic, which basically means the coronavirus will move to an endemic phase, which means the fact that the severity of the disease is in decline. Will we have other variants? You know, I'm not a scientist. I'm a social scientist, not a physical scientist or a medical researcher. But the answer to that is probably so going forward. But as transmissibility increases, severity decreases. And that's what we've really seen with Omicron as we've moved forward. And the availability of vaccinations and boosters will really position us to be able to effectively manage the campus to have a return as safe as we possibly can. We've put out information about that, but we probably will be talking about that again this morning, because we want to make sure that everybody is clear about it. But I really appreciate the support that everybody has given each other. And I do want to make clear the fact that the reason for the return is the fact that we have work to do. We are an anchor institution. We also have research that's extraordinary going on the campus. And of course, we have our students. Professor Reiner, one of our professors, wrote a fantastic op-ed that was in the Baltimore Sun about a week ago, talking about the impact of the pandemic on the mental health of our community, particularly our young people. So our return to campus is important in so many ways. And the cost is that it's borne on our community, especially on our young people and our students, has been extraordinary. So I'll stop there and we'll go to questions. And of course, we'll be talking more about the details, but I want to make it clear that I'm very confident in the fact that we are going to have a full residential experience on campus and are prepared to be able to do it for the spring.
All right, thank you very much, President Schatzel. We do have some questions coming in to the Q&A now. And again, to ask any questions of our panelists this morning, please use the Q&A function on your screen. We'll open things up now to those questions. And a number of them have come in already from those folks likely working at home today as we continue teleworking here through this week. When is the last day for teleworking? Is that next Tuesday, next Wednesday? The question has come in, and we'll go to Vice President Jones to begin answering that one for us.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I appreciate the question. And we are asking everyone to telework to the extent that's possible and approved through their supervisor through next Tuesday. And we anticipate bringing everybody back onto the campus next Wednesday.
Very good. Thank you. Some questions coming in to clarify an update that was given in one of the last university communications about the requirement now for KN95 masks. Where can those be picked up on campus? We'll go to Vice President Lowenthal to begin answering that, and for others to weigh in if possible.
Thank you, Sean. So yes, we now do require masks in the classroom setting on campus, KN95 masks, and we strongly recommend those KN95 masks for everyone coming on campus. We would encourage everyone to obtain their own masks if possible, but at the same time, we have plenty on campus as well. They've been already distributed to various departments in high traffic areas. There's also going to be 2 areas for pickup, both in West Village and in the Union, and we'll give more detail on that as we get closer to the start of the spring semester. And finally, if anyone needs a mask and is not finding them anywhere in their vicinity, they're encouraged, please call public safety, and we'll make sure that get those KN95 masks into your possession.
All right, thank you. A number of questions coming in regards to COLA and merit. As some announcements had come out from the university system last week to the broader public. We'll go to Vice President Lowenthal to provide an initial update on that, and I'm sure Vice President Jones could provide some additional information.
Thank you, Sean. And yes, that's very good news. We are very appreciative to the governor for his support. Everyone will be getting a well-deserved raise and bonus, a recognition of all that we've been through over the last almost 2 years now due to the pandemic. And the way that will come out is that here in January, there'll be a 1% COLA and a 2.5% merit, as well as a $1,500 bonus. And then in July of this year, July 2022, there'll be an additional 3% COLA and a 2.5% merit. Now, we're still working on the details of all of that in terms of timing, and I'll turn it over now to VP Jones, who has a little bit more to share as far as that's concerned.
Thank you, Vice President Lowenthal. And I just want to echo, we're very excited that the governor has included this in the budget going forward this year as well as into next year. And really, we're working with closely with the University System of Maryland to get the details in terms of eligibility for the increases that were mentioned, as well as the timing. And we anticipate having that information any day. I know that there was some information that was released a couple of weeks ago by an institution locally that created some questions. We don't have all of the details yet, and we wanted to wait until we had the details before we made the announcement. And that's obviously in conjunction with the USM and the other institutions in the USM. So it's going to be exciting. It's really going to be one of those where we want to make sure that we can include everyone to the extent possible. As far as eligibility, I know there are different questions, in terms of status. We're going to define all that. And as far as the amounts, and not only the timing of the increase being the effective date, but also probably more importantly, the timing of when eligible individuals will see that in a paycheck. So stay tuned. We anticipate that anytime. We're thinking it's going to be this week. We had hoped that it was going to be last week, but we're waiting on guidance and some more details from the USM.
And I just want to make clear, we're not the only university. The USM has been working very, very closely with DBM, as well as working very closely with Steve and Ben and the other vice presidents of admin and finance and chief human resource officers. It's a big place in terms of taking a look at the USM, and we want to have somewhat uniform application of it. There's research assistants, there's adjuncts, there's C1s, there's C2s, there's part-time, there's full-time. When people were hired. So there's a lot of questions in terms of, as Steve talked about, eligibility, but we're working those through. And I can say the fact that a very broad net is going to be cast on this as well. So we're hoping in the next 24 to 48 hours, but don't quote me. We're assuming the fact that since the governor's budget has to drop tomorrow, by statute that we're going to learn the details around that. But again, that's something that we're expecting. So stay tuned. We'll let everybody know as quickly as possible because we know there's a lot of questions to it, but you've heard what the numbers are.
All right. Thank you very much, all of you, for the response. Some questions coming in about testing. And this is kind of a two-part question. I'll open up the first one to the provost. Could you just kind of go over the general return testing protocols that we have in place here at TU?
Sure. Thanks, Sean. So we've announced that everybody does have to have a negative COVID test within 5 days of your return to campus. So that can be a rapid test. That could be a PCR test administered anywhere. For essential staff at TU, essential staff can go get their test at our West Village testing center. Residential students can also get their test at the West Village testing center, and others are asked, of course, to get the at-home test or go attend one of the big testing sites that are opening up again. I know that the governor is making home tests available. The Biden administration, I think we can start signing up for those tomorrow to get 6 tests sent to your home. So there's a lot of avenues opening up right now. I know it's a little tough to get a test right at the moment, which is part of the reason we extended the telework option until the middle of next week. But we expect that the availability to grow dramatically in the next week or so. So those are the plans as they exist right now.
All right, thank you. I think you partially answered that follow-up question to that, which is, are we able to do an at-home test for this return? And I'll pass that to Vice President Hurte to answer.
Yes, thanks, Sean. At-home test is one that is an option for you. So PCR, rapid, at-home tests, all of those are options for you to be able to submit. I do want to add one quick note for residential students. Residential students will receive some direct information, but I want to thank our West Village Testing Center, who's going to be doing some expanded hours the week of the 24th. So I will be available the entire week, including the weekends, to support our residential students' return testing. So more details to come directly to our residential students.
All right, thank you both very much. In regards to the boosters, some questions coming in about that as well. What are the specific requirements for the boosters for our campus community? I'll go back to Vice President Hurte for this one as well.
Thanks, Sean. So the requirement is for members of our community to be fully vaccinated. That includes having the booster if you're eligible. And so we ask that members of the community will go to towson.edu /verify to submit your verification by January 31st or within 14 days of becoming eligible. We recognize that members of the community got their vaccinations at different points. And so it's either January 31st or within 14 days of your eligibility for the booster.
All right, thank you. A follow-up question on the COLA. This one I'll go to Vice President Jones. Will new hires in probation periods be included in the January or July merit increases? I don't know if that's something we can answer now or if it's something we need to wait for the communication out to campus, but any information you can provide there might be helpful for our audience this morning.
I appreciate the question, Sean. As the president just mentioned, that's part of the details that we're working through right now is the eligibility of the different groups across the campus. We have a variety of different groups, as the president pointed out, and we're trying to make sure that we're taking into consideration all of them. And obviously the funding for all of this, it has to be taken into consideration as well. And that's why we're waiting very patiently, but not so patiently, for information from both the budget as well as USM.
And I do want to point out that, we're going to do we are going to be doing these distributions. There's no doubt about that. It's the eligibility and the timing. For example, we have 3 different kinds of increases. We have the bonus, we have COLA, and we have merit. So we need to be able to understand, because people might be eligible for all 3, 1 or 2, depending on their status. Now, again, we're going to be able to cast a very wide net. That's our position with it, but we're working with the USM and we're working with also the other institutions to be able to lay this out in some type of consistent manner. So again, as soon as we let you know, as soon as we find out, we'll let you know. But I would want to frame this as very positive news for the entire campus community. Very positive news. As people have told me, they haven't remembered a merit increase for years and years and years. I'm starting my 7th year. There was none since I arrived on campus. So this is very good news from the governor.
Great news indeed. Thank you both. Question coming in about exemptions and whether or not that process continues through for the vaccine in the spring term. I'll go to Vice President Jones to provide any information you can in regards to the exemption process for folks on campus.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Of course, we still accept requests for exemptions. The medical exemptions would come through our typical ADA process, which comes through the Human Resources Department. And then if there is a religious exemption request, that would go through our OIIE group. But yes, to answer the question, we are in fact still considering exemptions going forward with the vaccine.
If I can just jump in real quick here. Sorry. If you had an exemption in the fall, your exemption does carry over to the spring automatically unless you request a change.
All right, thank you. For those who are exempt, are we continuing testing in the spring term? I'll go to Vice President Hurte to provide some details in regards to those protocols we have in place for folks with exemptions.
Thanks, Sean. Yes. So sentinel testing will continue. So for those who have exemptions, the twice weekly sentinel testing will continue starting February 1st. Just a reminder, your daily quick scan remains a requirement as well.
All right, thank you. I'll throw one more back at you as well, Dr. Hurte, and that is, what happens for individuals who don't get the booster? What are the compliance steps that are in place for the spring term?
Sure. So it continues to be the same requirements, whether for faculty and staff through human resources, as well as for students through our COVID-19 addendum, the student code of conduct. The vaccine mandate is a requirement. Fully vaccinated means having the booster as well. And so if you are not in compliance, does not have an exemption, you will be following the various policies, whether it's again through human resources or through student code of conduct.
I also want to point out the fact that the requirement for full vaccination, which includes the booster, as well as the continuation of testing for those with exemptions that we're doing, we're aligned with with College Park, with UMBC, Salisbury, and Coppin, just as some examples. So this is really the pathway that you're seeing the institutions within the USM taking. So we're very well aligned with our sister institutions in terms of the requirements for full vaccination and continuum testing.
All right, thank you. Question in here. I had COVID-19 over the winter break, tested positive. What does TU need to know, or does TU need to know? We'll go to Vice President Jones, I guess, to answer this one first.
I'll probably hand that off to Vice President Hurte, but we do in fact through our daily quick scan ask that individuals report when in fact they've tested positive for COVID, because that helps us for two reasons. One is obviously we have a record of it, but then also in terms of the quarantine or the isolation period that needs to take place relative to the working environment. And Dr. Hurte, if there's anything I missed there, please feel free to fill in.
No, I think you took care of it.
All right, thank you both. For those, this is a follow-up question to that. If somebody has tested positive for COVID, do they need a booster? What's the time frame for that? As well as testing, what is the time frame for them for a return test? Provost Perreault, we'll go to you for the first part of that, I guess. If somebody has tested positive for COVID, is a booster required?
Yes, a booster still is required. Again, you might speak to your medical provider to get their recommendation on the time period afterwards, but we have consulted our medical group, and they do advise that having been COVID positive, you could still benefit from having the booster. If you have had COVID, however, your testing protocol does change. And all of that is triggered by doing the quick scan. So your first step is to do that quick scan, indicate I have had a positive COVID test, and then a medical professional who knows a lot more than I do will reach out directly to you to discuss your particular situation, and then we'll give that very specific advice about how long then you are exempt from any testing, when would be the best time to get a booster, and those sorts of details. So your best bet for everybody is, if you have had that positive result, please indicate that in the quick scan, and you'll be in touch with a medical professional very soon thereafter.
All right, thank you. A question in regards to the timing of your return test. We'll go to Vice President Jones on this one. Coming into campus this week to pick up some paperwork, but not returning for regular on-site activity until next week. Do I need a return test now or just before next week?
That's a great question, Sean. We've had that come up several times. We're looking for the return test to be when you come back to work regularly on campus. We know we've had people coming in intermittently to either pick up some information or to come in for half a day or a day. But we're looking at the return negative test for when people return to work on a regular basis.
Thank you. And then a follow-up to that one, and I'll go back to you, Vice President Jones, on this. How does one submit the results of their home tests?
And again, another good question. We have an attestation process. It's online, and each individual will basically attest that they've tested negative for COVID. And obviously, we have a great deal of confidence that everyone is going to comply. And our expectation is that everyone will comply with the attestation. It's obviously signing to basically say you've committed to having taken the test and that it is negative. And then that's submitted, and we keep a record of that here on campus after it's been turned in. But it's an attestation process. You can find it in the COVID, the website. There's a form basically to fill out and to sign.
All right, thank you. Some additional questions in regards to masks. We'll go to Vice President Lowenthal on this one. Is it specifically the KN95? Is that the specific mask that is being recommended or required? And the follow-up question to that is it a requirement or a recommendation? And I'll throw that to you to provide us some additional clarity.
Thank you, Sean. So KN95 and N95 masks are those that we are requiring in the classroom setting. Everywhere else on campus, those are strongly recommended, certainly encouraged, but the requirement is in the classroom. I hope that clarifies.
That's good. Thank you.
And again, Sean, that aligns with our sister institutions as well.
All right, thank you. What about commencement for this spring? We'll go to Provost Perreault to provide us an update in regards to our plans for commencement to celebrate our graduates this spring.
So we will definitely have a commencement on campus this spring. We had a great commencement last time around over in Johnny Unitas Stadium, and we expect to do that once again this year. So very much looking forward to it.
All right, very good.
We're hopeful it'll look a little bit different because we won't have to be dealing with, we'll have a vaccinated campus and we'll have high degrees of vaccination. So we're really looking forward to a very festive time to be able to celebrate the students as well as their families.
And no cicadas are invited this year, none.
I'll delete that follow-up question on cicadas then, Provost. Thank you. We'll go to Vice President Jones on this next question, seeking an update for construction and progress at the Union. Can you give us an idea of where we stand right now on progress there in the center of campus?
Yeah, again, good question, Sean. The Union is moving along very nicely. We've run into a few issues with a supply chain with some various parts and equipment. But as people come back to campus next week, you'll see that the food platforms, particularly the branded food platforms, should be up and running. That would include our Dunkin' Donuts and our Chick-fil-A. And Vice President Hurte may want to speak to dining in general, but we're really excited about that because I know students, staff, and faculty are looking forward to having those the variety of options that will be offered there. Some other things that you'll see is the grand staircase has been finished. The auditorium is about 90% complete. So the progress is being made very, very rapidly, I think, in terms of completion. We have a phase 2 that we're obviously working towards for the middle of the summer. I guess it would be June or July timeframe. And we're still in the process of having people relocating over to the union from various parts of campus. But we're very excited. Again, we still continue to be on time, and it's going to be a great space for everyone on campus, our students, our faculty, and our staff. And if you haven't been by there, I would encourage you to go in and take a look. It's a beautiful building, significant investment in our campus and our students, and we're very, very excited about the location.
Yeah, I'll just add my excitement. If you haven't been over to the union, invite you to come over. It's been great, especially last semester, to see our students just really make themselves at home in the space. Some really great additions. Many of our departments are open. I'm really excited about the food options that will be available starting next week. So definitely, if you haven't made your way over to the union, make your way over, and we're looking forward to formally celebrating the union in a couple months.
And I can add three of the things that are really exciting about the design. One is the food court. It's just extraordinary. And it has garage doors that will open up in the spring where we can have seating outside. Very much like if people are used to our house in Remington, it has that kind of design aspect to it. And then we finally have a ballroom. The ballroom is just absolutely spectacular on the second floor. It is a true ballroom in terms of its seating, as well as all the audio visual, as well as the pre-event areas for it. So it's a much needed venue for the campus for the kind of events we'll be hosting, as well as the fact we now have a theater. So there's almost a 300 person theater that's in there to be able to show movies, as well as to be able to have slam poetry contests, for example, or to be able to have concerts, open mic nights. Just a lot of additions that we can make to student activities and student life on campus, as well as the entire campus.
All right. Excited to see all that finished. It's going to be a great spring for us. Some questions kind of looking a little further down the road again here. We just talked about commencement. I think everybody's already looking to warmer weather. Can we get an update in regards to the holiday in June, Juneteenth, which last year we had some shifting around in regards to when and how we were going to observe Juneteenth. The university has already deemed it a university holiday going forward. We're the first in the system to do that. But Vice President Jones, could you give us some additional information in regards to how Juneteenth is being handled this year?
Thank you for the question, Sean. Very timely. As you explained, we at TU were somewhat of a leader at USM, naming a TU holiday for Juneteenth last year. And as a result, subsequently, both the state, federal government, and the USM have named that day as a holiday, Juneteenth. So we are going to move our holiday in 2022. And after some discussion with shared governance and looking at how we can best utilize that day somewhere in our calendar, we've landed on Monday, October 17th to be the holiday that we're moving from Juneteenth and putting it on that Monday. And that was working very closely with our academic affairs folks, talking with the provost to make sure that we can give the benefit of a holiday to our faculty and our staff. And certainly are looking forward to having that Monday, having a long weekend in the fall.
All right, thank you. We talked about budget and a couple of questions earlier with the answers that were provided, but I'm going to go to Vice President Lowenthal here for a bit more in regards to where we are in the budget process. Could you give us an update there on where we are with budget?
Sure. Thank you, Sean. And as the President said earlier, much of the budget for the next fiscal year 23, is really tied to the governor's budget. And the governor, by legislation, has to release his budget no later than tomorrow. So we are on standby and waiting for his budget to be released. That being said, we remain cautiously optimistic given the various mention of surplus at the state level of $4 billion in surpluses in coming years as well, that we hope to recover the previous cuts that we've had to the budget, but we don't know 100% until we actually see that budget. In terms of the current year budget, we continue to maintain our budget. Despite the challenges of COVID, we're still managing to make things balance, and that is really also good news. So overall, cautiously optimistic, but we really don't know until we see the governor's budget when it drops tomorrow.
Right. The key things that Ben is talking about is the fact that, we received about a 10% cut. Part of it was replaced with the enhancement funds that we received. But that's we're down about $6 to $7 million based on that from prior year. As well as we want to take a look at capital. We have a big hole that's over on the north side of campus that we've received pre-authorization for. So we are optimistic about that, but we're also looking at where do we end up with some other projects that we have. So we're really excited, and we can't wait for the budget to drop. We thought it was going to drop last Friday, but it looks like it's got to be by statute tomorrow. But I think Ben and I have both said this is the latest we've ever seen the governor's budget drop since I've been here, and I think since Ben's been in the system even longer than I have. So we're optimistic about it, and we'll look forward to getting it.
All right, thank you. We're about the halfway point here, a little bit beyond for our time here this morning. So I want to remind everybody that we will have a recording of the town hall available on the university website this week. Some of the questions coming into the chat now we have answered. I'll try to maybe re-ask one or two of those as we go for anybody who maybe joined after an early meeting this morning. For those who have not entered questions on a town hall before, we're using the Q&A function on your Zoom screen to submit questions to your panelists here today. And for any we do not get to today, we are taking down all the questions, and we'll try to update the FAQ section of the coronavirus page on the website. But for any that you think of after the town hall, feel free to email us at asktu@towson.edu. A number of questions have come in. We're going to try to get to as many of these as possible. Is there any update on the telework policy? There was an evaluation underway in the fall involving a number of folks across the institution. We'll go to Vice President Jones to give us an update on where we stand now with a longer term telework policy.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate the question. Yes, the input that we received from the task force that provided recommendations for changes to the telework policy has been taken. That policy is being updated and rewritten in draft form, and we're going through right now in the process of going through our policy on policies, which is have the rewrite. Then it will be reviewed by our shared governance groups and others according to the policy on policies before the final policy is reviewed and adopted. We anticipate that being ready to go and all of that being finished by the time the spring semester starts, which would be that January 31st. In the meantime, we still have a telework policy. So individuals who are interested in asking for or requesting telework can certainly still express their interest or make a request based on the current policy. And then once we put the revised or the new or updated policy in place, obviously that'll come with some of the logistics and operational how-tos and whens and that kind of thing. But we're moving forward with it. We're excited about it. We feel like it's going to be beneficial, to our staff, and are looking forward to putting it in place and implementing it. So those who are interested can avail themselves, and we can make some adjustments to schedules for those positions that are eligible for telework and could work within the boundaries that the new and updated policy will define for us. So we're on target. We're looking forward to it, and appreciate the question. But in the meantime, we still have a telework policy in place. We have a number of people that are working telework under the telework policy that's in place. So I would encourage folks to if you're interested, you can apply. Or if you want to wait until the updated revised goes into effect, that's fine too. Thank you.
And I just want to thank Steve for his leadership on this, as well as the committee that's worked really hard since the beginning of the semester to be able to develop this new policy. We waited till everybody could come back on campus in the fall because we wanted to have full participation of the campus to be able to consider the telework policy. And I have to tell you, it's a complicated topic, and to be able to get it done, and that we're going to be, rolling it out at the start of the spring semester. I just want to thank everybody and just say how grateful I am for the hard work and the diligence they've shown in getting that done. And I know that everybody's awaiting it, and we're looking forward to be able to share it.
All right. Thank you both for your answers. A question in regards to the off-campus shooting and the unfortunate homicide in downtown Towson last week. Could we have any updates on that is the question. And I'll go to Vice President Lowenthal for anything you can provide there.
Thank you, Sean. And of course, we're very tuned into the safety of campus. This is a very unfortunate off-campus incident. We're working very closely with Baltimore County Police, and it is an active investigation. So I cannot share too much in the way of detail, but what I can share is the fact that we know now that this was not a random act, and we will continue to work very closely with our colleagues in Baltimore County and ensure the safety of the entire campus as we investigate this unfortunate off-campus incident.
All right, thank you, Ben. And one additional one coming in regards to campus safety is reflective of the weekend incidents in Texas. What's the university doing in regards to any threats to centers of faith around the nation? I know from conversation this morning, Vice President Lowenthal, there's some progress underway there in terms of our response. So I'll go to you here first.
Yes, thank you, Sean. Again, a very unfortunate incident that occurred at Congregation Beth Israel in Texas. And we are in the process. I'm working very closely with Chief Herring to provide our outreach to all of our communities of faith throughout campus and ensure that we have the proper safety in place to protect all of our communities of faith as we move forward.
Thank you. We have a question in here in regards to the Supreme Court ruling on boosters and vaccination requirements that came through late last week. I'll go ahead and give the answer that I have from the University System of Maryland in regards to the question that has come in, which is, does this impact TU's requirement? And the guidance that we have from not only the university system, but the Office of the Attorney General here in Maryland is that the case does not raise any questions as to the state's authority to impose public health regulations, which is well settled, and as such, the decision has no impact on the USM's vaccination requirement. Here on campus, no impact either. So I will give a follow-up question to that as well over to Dr. Hurte. And the question there is, what is the university doing in regards to access to the booster on campus? Can you provide us any details in regards to the booster here?
Absolutely. Thanks, Sean. Great question. So yes, we have been working to provide a series of vaccine clinics on campus. In fact, we have a vaccine clinic going on today from 9 to 5 over at CQ Arena. We'll have a number of about 3 more clinics that are scheduled over the next couple of weeks. So continue to look out for communication. We've sent communication to the campus community about those clinics. We'll continue to provide that information and also remind you that the vaccines are widely available at pharmacies in the community and other healthcare locations and institutions. And so we just invite you to continue to be on the lookout both in the community as well as the clinics that we provide on campus.
All right, thank you. And a follow-up to that too, this kind of clarifying some details from the university communication of about 2 weeks ago. What if I've already received the booster from Johnson & Johnson? Is that something that an individual could submit to the booster portal? And I'll go back to Dr. Hurte for an answer on this one too.
The quick answer is yes, absolutely. If you've gotten the J&J booster, definitely make sure that you provide that documentation through the VaxVerify site on the Towson website.
All right. We dealt with some chilly weather and a freeze over the weekend, but I think Vice President Jones can give us a bit more of a warmer forecast in regards to hiring on TU. There was a question in here about the hiring freeze that the university had at one point in time over the last year and a half. Can you give us some details about where we are with hiring?
Sure, Sean. Thanks for the question. As we've been communicating over the last several months, we don't have a freeze. We're actively hiring. In fact, we've hired in excess of 170 people over the last year, going back to April of last year, and we continue obviously to recruit for open positions. continues to be a challenge for us, like it is for other employers. And we did some research into data just to see in terms of our time to fill positions. And we saw that our time to fill positions is essentially the same as it was pre-pandemic, although we continue to face challenges with certain positions that seem to be in high demand in the market, regardless of whether it's higher education or other employers. But we're open for hiring. Our staffing department, our talent acquisition group, has been doing a heck of a job processing requisitions and developing candidate pools. And again, we're trying to do what we can as quick as we can to fill the open positions. And certainly, as I said in our last town hall, we appreciate everyone that's either on this call or working at TU. You're helping us because we're all recruiters for TU. And certainly if you have anyone you think is a good qualified candidate, certainly send them our way, because we're looking for that highly qualified, diverse workforce to continue to make TU the good and great university that we are.
All right, thank you. What is the enrollment looking like for spring? Are we off by a few? What's the percentage? That's the question into the Q&A. I'll go to Provost Perreault to provide us an update in regards to enrollment for the spring term.
Thanks, Sean. So we're still obviously in enrollment period right now. Students are registering for classes and recruiting continues. What we're seeing in enrollment is that we were down in the fall roughly 1,000 students year over year, and that 1,000 students continues to be our student deficit. So that's a real challenge. We've seen that nationally, that the students that disappeared during the high period of COVID years disappeared and did not come back in the fall. Very, very few students, unfortunately, and that really is a national crisis, frankly. And we continue to work to try to identify those students and invite them back to our campus. So we have that continuing deficit. On the plus side, I will say that our first year class is up. It is back to where it was pre-pandemic. And so all the indicators there is that really we have that deficit that's working its way through our enrollment. The admissions team is working really hard. They're doing a great job, an amazing job. I could say I didn't look at this morning's numbers, but we had over 15,000 applicants thus far for next fall, which is a tremendous number of applications to go through. So our admissions team is working doubly hard to get us back on track, and with the top students back in our classrooms for the fall. So that's where we stand right now. And, we expect to continually and over time close that gap and get back to where we were before.
All right, thank you. Going back to a question in regards to guidance around COVID here, how long is the quarantine for residential students on campus? There's been some discrepancy amongst the federal guidance as well as how local municipalities are handling that. We'll go to Vice President Hurte to give some additional guidance in regards to the quarantine process.
Great. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, very good question. So we do know that the CDC provided some updated recommendations and guidance in recent weeks. However, Towson University remains aligned with our local Baltimore County Health Department, as well as the Maryland Department of Health, which continues to provide the 10-day quarantine guidance. And so that is the quarantine guidance that we utilize for campus. We do anticipate that both the state and the local health department will likely shift to the current CDC recommendations of 5 days soon. But until that happens, we'll continue to maintain the 10-day quarantine period, again, in alignment with both the Baltimore County Health Department and the Maryland Department of Health.
Thank you. We're down to about the last 15 minutes of our time here this morning, so we're going to try to get through as many of these as we can here at the end. But again, for those we cannot get to, use asktu@towson.edu via email, and we'll try to answer those as quickly as possible. We'll also update the FAQs that we have in the Q&A here this morning on the university website. Question in regards to faculty. Can the provost give an update in regards to 9-month contracts And in general, what type of retention and hiring are we working on with faculty right now?
Thanks, Sean. So we have announced that we are moving to a 9-month contract for all full-time faculty. And so we've started that work. Many of you got that notification that we are requesting that you sign a document that says you understand it's a 9-month contract. So we're doing that in conjunction with our working towards an R2 status. The 9-month contract, what that allows, the reason why we're doing that is that will allow faculty who are writing grants and who are doing summer salary to gain a full month of summer salary from their grants. And so for those faculty, this is a significant increase in their potential salary. And so that's why we did that move. Now, it won't have any other impact on faculty. So I've had questions about retirement, about benefits, about things like that. And none of that is affected by the 9-month. This is, it's really more of an administrative change to benefit faculty. And so that's the good news. So that is, we are working through those contracts right now, but all faculty will be moved, all full-time faculty will be moved to the 9-month contract. I think you asked something else too, Sean. What was the second part?
About retention and what we're doing with faculty hiring right now.
So we are in full-blown faculty hiring mode, which is super exciting on any campus. So the president authorized 50 faculty searches last fall, at the beginning of the fall. And so departments, many of you are in the middle of 2, 3, or even more searches for faculty. And so thank you for that, because I know that that's really oftentimes difficult work. It takes a lot of time, but it's some of the most important work that we do on a campus. So we have those 50 that are out there and are being actively searched right now. I'm happy to say that a bunch of those have closed. We've made offers and have had acceptances in a bunch of those positions, but I know others are still going forward. And we do, of course, have some turnover that happened since last summer. And so those positions are being looked at one by one and are also being searched where requested and supported. So there's all kinds of faculty hiring going on right now, and we can really look forward to having a strong incoming class of faculty this summer.
All right, thank you. Can you give us an update as well? This is another question coming in. I'll throw at you as a follow-up. I'll try to draw it out so you can catch your breath. Where we stand right now on the Vice President for Enrollment Management and any other research-oriented leadership positions in the Provost Office right now.
Sure. So we are for the Vice President for Enrollment Management, Dr. Hurte is chairing that search. We have we're getting down to our list of initial interviewees. I don't know, Dr. Hurte, if you want to talk about where you are with your committee, but we're getting very close to having that search completed.
Sure, happy to provide an update. And so we have been receiving applications with support of Whit Kiefer, who's been supporting this search over the last several weeks. Committee actually will be meeting this week to begin to continue review of applications and make some recommendations for the next phase of interviews. And at this point, we anticipate that we'll be having candidates on campus about mid-February and be ready to wrap up that search and recruit a dynamic leader to lead our enrollment management efforts here to you.
I'll say I've seen the pool and it's outstanding. So looking very, very optimistic there. The other search that people might be interested in, of course, is particularly faculty, is our research and grad studies position. So I think the closing date for applications is tomorrow. And so we are, we are also working with Whit Kiefer on that particular position. Dean Plowfield is chairing that search, and they are moving forward on a pretty similar timeline to what Dr. Hurte identified for the Vice President of Enrollment. And so we hope and certainly expect to have somebody named to that position shortly, within the next couple of months.
All right, great updates. Thank you. There's a question in here that'll give me a chance to give my team a shout out, so I'm going to ask it. And that is, can you tell us a little bit more about the reuse initiative for campus office furniture. Will this be available to all faculty, staff? And rather than have Vice President Jones continue answering a ton of questions today, I'll simply refer everybody to the news page on the university site. I would hope that that question was spurred by the newsroom story that our team did last week, but towson.edu/news. And there's a news story there in regards to that very creative and innovative program built around sustainability for office furniture. A question in regards to another leadership position search that is underway, and that is the search for the athletics director. Where do we stand in that process? And I'll go to President Schatzel to begin answering that question. And if Vice President Jones would like to weigh in at any point, feel free.
Thank you, Sean. We're proceeding with that. That committee's been formed. There'll be an initial look at the applications. We're using a national recruitment firm. It's a national search for the next leader of Towson University Athletics. I have Barry Gossett, who, for those of you that might have heard the name before, Barry is a former vice chair of the University System of Maryland Board of Regents, and was a regent for several years, and also chaired the Regents Intercollegiate Athletic Committee. Very, very knowledgeable about collegiate athletics, not just in Maryland, but a national scale. So has brought a great degree of insight to the search. And then Dr. Fran Soitzman, who is also an alum of ours in 1979, was a member of the Board of Visitors, providing his leadership to the campaign committee. And he's providing much experience and insight to that. One of the things that I can share, and I think you've heard it with both the provost as well as Dr. Hurte, is the Towson is a destination place in terms of hiring. As soon as these positions were announced, we were getting calls from people about being interested in the position. Maryland's a great place for people who want to be able to come to, particularly if they're in a collegiate or academic setting, because they know that the state is supporting it. Towson University's reputation is just going up and is very, very strong and continuing to be able to climb. So we are very fortunate in the fact that, and this is the work of all the people that are listening here. This is the work of the faculty and the staff and the administration to be able to work so hard to be able to elevate the university's impact and influence. And that results in the fact that we're attracting great leadership to the campus. So I'm really excited about the fact that we're going to have a terrific pool to consider for those 3 leadership positions. Athletic director, where I've got a target to the fact of mid-February, late February, to be able to have that search be completed.
All right, very good. Question for the provost that has come in. Can you give us some guidance on what is approved for travel for conferences in the spring?
Sure. So we've just like in the fall, faculty and staff, we're back to travel is allowed anywhere based on our previous policy, right? So if there's a CDC warning level 4 or above, we do not support travel there by faculty, staff, or students. 3 or below, 3 CDC level 3, there's a process to appeal to be able to allow to travel to those places. And then CDC level 2 or 1, anybody can travel. So that is available to everybody right now.
All right, thank you. Down to about our last 5 minutes. We'll try to get through a few more here. One that has come in a couple times. Where are we in progress with the R2 approach for the university? I'll go to Provost Perreault for that one as well.
Yeah, so we've made it clear that our goal is to achieve R2 status, and that's something that you cannot do overnight. So we're right now doing the building blocks piece of it, and so there's lots of different elements to it. One being the 9-month contract. We know that will attract faculty who are interested in research and grants writing in particular. We know that the faculty hiring is a part of that as well, right? We know that we want to increase our number and percentage of faculty that are tenured and tenured track. And so these searches are a part of that effort as well. We have devoted a significant increased funding towards research so that we can meet those goals as well. So This is all a part of a larger plan that doesn't happen overnight, but we expect that we will provide the support to be able to do that in the next, to be able to achieve that target goal in the next few years. So it's a little bit of a longer process, but we are beginning the process right now.
All right, thank you. This one was asked very early on in the town hall, and as I said, any of those that we don't get to, we will update on the website. A recording of this will be provided, but for those who joined in late, I want to make sure that you all get an answer to this question, which has popped in a few times here in the last few minutes, and that is if there's any update on merit and COLA, which is one of the first questions out of the chute this morning. We'll go back to Vice President Jones to provide some details there for us, as I know he is prepared to answer that question as he did earlier this morning.
Thank you, Sean. Yes, we, again, as I said earlier, we're very excited about the fact that the governor has included in his budget some significant pay adjustments for our folks here at TU as well as across the USM. And we're just working through the details right now to try to make sure from an eligibility and timing standpoint, we're specific. And again, as the president mentioned, this is TU working as part of the greater USM. All of the institutions are going through that detail, and there are three in January. There are three potential increases. One would be a COLA stated at 1%, the merit of 2.5%, and then a one-time lump sum. The maximum is $1,500. As was mentioned earlier, the eligibility process that we're going through. Some people may be eligible for all three. Some may be eligible for only one or maybe none. We're just going through again, trying to make sure that there's consistency across not only TU but across the USM. And then in July, it's been stated that there will be an additional costing of living adjustment of 3%. And another merit increase of 2.5%. One thing we didn't mention early on was that as these increases are applied to those who are eligible for both COLA and merit, the COLA will be applied first, and then the merit will be applied on top of the COLAs. And that basically allows for the leveraging of the increase for those who are eligible. So we're excited. Stay tuned. We anticipate within the next day or two to be able to communicate the details in terms of eligibility and the timing of those increases. Thanks for the question, Sean.
Sure. I'll come back to you with one more, Steve, and that is that somebody says, I am scheduled to get a booster this week during the workday. Do I have to take off? Do I have to take time out of my workday to do that?
Yeah, again, great question. We've been treating the booster like we have all vaccinations since we started the process with vaccination. It's paid administrative leave if you have to go during the day. Obviously now I think we're in a situation where people can schedule boosters at the different testing sites around the county and across the state. So just work with your supervisor in terms of the time that you need for the administrative leave that we'll grant for people to go and get that booster shot.
All right. We've come to the end of our time here this morning. I do want to remind everybody that we will have a recording of this town hall available on the university website this week. For those who did not have their questions answered here this morning, we will be updating the FAQs page at towson.edu/coronavirus. But for any questions you feel you need answered sooner, feel free to email us this morning at asktu@towson.edu. Again, I want to thank all of our panelists here this morning for joining us. I want to thank our ASL interpreter, Barb Menges, as always, for providing some great support for our team here. And I want to hand things over to President Schatzel here for any closing remarks she might have to end our broadcast this morning.
Thank you, Sean. I want to thank my colleagues for participating this morning. And I hope everyone found this very helpful and hopeful. I'm very, very hopeful and optimistic for the spring semester. A lot of work has been done. Everybody on this call that's watching and listening to it has participated in preparing us for that. So I'm very, very excited to welcome all the faculty, staff, and students back to campus in about a 2-week period of time. It's going to be a great spring 2022. The one thing that does happen over mini-mester when there's a quietness on campus is Towson University Athletics continues to compete. So if those of you that are looking for something that's going to just raise your spirits and get you ready for the spring semester in terms of TU spirit, I want to point out that our women's basketball team is playing tonight The women's basketball team is number 2 in the conference. They are 12-2, and they're 3-0 with regard to conference play. And tonight they have a big road game against Drexel. That's number 2. And I know that Coach Rich and our women's basketball team would love to have everybody be watching and roaring for them. And then on Thursday, our men's basketball team plays, and that's home against the College of Charleston. We are 13-5 in second place, and we've won 4 straight within the conference as well. And I know Coach Scary would love to be able to have people come out and be able to support them as well. So with a dark and dreary first few weeks of January, if you're looking to get out of the house Thursday night, CQ Arena is the place to be able to be, because there will be some great basketball being played. And tune in tonight if you can to be able to cheer on our women. Again, thank you everybody for supporting our students and each other. And again, happy 2022.